if you and your spouse were not both physically present at the marriage ceremony and the marriage was not consummated. So these are some of the restrictions on marriage. You know, physically present at the marriage ceremony. Yeah, that's exactly what it means. And the marriage was not consummated, so was never signed off, wasn't gone through the all of the requirements for the marriage to be actually legal. A husband or wife, if you gained lawful permanent resident status by virtue of a prior marriage to a U.S. citizen or lawful permanent resident, unless A, a period of 5 years has elapsed since you became a lawful permanent resident, or B, you can establish by clear and convincing evidence that the prior marriage through which you gained your immigrant status was not entered into for the purpose of evading any provision of the immigration laws, or C, your prior marriage through which you gained your immigrant status was terminated by the death of your former spouse. So, you know, that's the thing about what they're saying here. Who may not file for a person. Okay, I can't file for someone else. If I have gotten my permanent resident of a prior marriage that's less than 5 years old, or a period of 5 years elapsed since I became a lawful permanent resident. So, and the thing the thing that they are trying to avoid is that I have a real wife and I get this fake marriage and then I dump that one and then I come back and I get my real wife in. So that's what they're trying to say. They want to make sure that, you know, a long period of time has gone by before I can petition for someone else based on marriage if I've gotten mine through marriage. A husband or wife. If you married your husband or wife while your husband or wife was the subject of an exclusion, deportation, removal, or rescission proceeding regarding his or her right to be admitted into or to remain in the United States, or while a decision in any of these proceedings was before any court on judicial review, unless, so removal proceedings, that's they call deportation, and so if you overstay, if you commit a crime, if you are not in lawful status anymore, you can be deported. And that's the way in which they kick people out of the country here in the United States. So if I'm waiting to get kicked out and I go marry someone, they're saying, no, we're not going to give you a green card on that one. Okay, it's probably fake. But they do allow for it unless, okay, you prove by clear and convincing evidence that the marriage is legally valid where it took place, and that you and your husband or wife married in good faith and not for the purpose of procuring the admission of your husband or wife as an immigrant, and that no fee or any other consideration other than appropriate attorney's fees was given for your filing of this petition, or your husband or wife has lived outside the United States after the marriage for a period of at least 2 years. So this was a high marriage fraud situation, and what they're saying is that if you really prove with a lot of evidence, a lot of evidence, you can actually get your green card. But the standard is clear and convincing, so it has to be no doubt. So we have a procedures video that talks about all the evidence you need to put up to show a good faith marriage, and we're going to touch on some of those things here as well. But what it really takes is, you know, I think you're going to need an attorney to argue the facts on that one, that it does equal a clear and convincing standard. You know, these a lot of these decisions by the Immigration Service to deny a case, they end up going up on appeal in different areas of immigration law, and the judge will say, well, you know, they did have the tax returns, but they didn't have bank accounts in both their names and all this stuff, so I didn't think it was clear convincing evidence, I deny. there's a lot of really good information about what they want, what the immigration wants. It gives us clues about what to give them in the case law. And so that's one thing where if you're in this kind of situation, you want to hire an attorney to do that because they can look into the case law. Although, you know, a lot of the cases are on the USCIS website. There's a laws and regulations section, and so if you want to do some of this research yourself, you certainly could. But if you're in a removal proceeding, you know, this video is not for you anyway. You know, file the I-130 because you have a whole different standard of review. And at the same time, can you learn a lot? Yes. So you can definitely learn a lot, and we would encourage you to hang in there with this video. Husband or wife, if it has been legally determined that such an alien has attempted or conspired to enter into a marriage for the purpose of evading the immigration laws. Marriage fraud. You're not going to get this thing approved. You can't file it if you are evading for the purpose of evading the immigration laws. And now I want to tell you a little bit of a story about this, because there are certain things, certain bits of information that are going to appear on the application, the I-130, that's going to wave a red flag. Hey, this is marriage fraud. This is marriage fraud. Okay. One of them is having separate addresses. Okay. So if you guys have separate addresses right now, that's going to be a red flag that you've got marriage fraud. So what it means, doesn't mean lie and put the same address down. No, no, no. We never lie on our immigration service forms. Look, I mean, you can get one of these even if you're in a removal proceeding. You just got to show extra information, give them more documents, build a case. You can get it. The law says you can get it. So it's the same thing. When you've got those separate addresses, you just need to explain and give a reason. I had a client who was, she was actually studying and finishing up her master's degree in Colorado. He was actually just got a great job offer in San Diego. He was working there. She was going to school up there. They filed the I-130. They did not live at the same address. Did they get approved? Yes. They had a bona fide marriage. They had all the money together. They had letters from friends saying, of course they're a married couple. They get together when they can on spring break, and watch out. It's fireworks and sparks. And their cell phone bills show the calls every day, on and on and on. Tons of information. And so they got their green card. A grandparent, grandchild, nephew, niece, uncle, aunt, cousin, or in-law. Yeah, those relationships are not covered. They're not close enough to be considered for getting a green card. Okay, general instructions. Step 1, fill out Form I-130. Now that's a good idea. Type or print legibly in black ink. Alright, so that's good. Now I like to sign them in blue ink, because when you sign them in blue ink, then you know that it's an original. So that's the thing on that. But when you're filling out the form, all the fields, yeah, we're going to use black ink. And by doing it on the computer, it makes a really nice, clean block letter in black ink, which it works really, really well. If extra space is needed to complete any item, attach a continuation sheet. Okay, indicate the item number, date, and sign each sheet. See, now sign each sheet. I like signing each sheet too. That way it's legally incorporated by reference. So if they say, well, you know, we didn't think you really had enough information on there, you say, well, look, I gave you all these sheets and I signed them, I put the number on it. There's no excuse for you not to consider this information in my case. So it's important to put all that stuff. There's another good one. Answer all questions fully and accurately. State that an item is not applicable with NA. If the answer is none, write none. Yeah, we want basically, okay, we want every item to have an answer to it. That way, it doesn't look like you skipped it or forgot it. So by putting something in the box, it helps them know that you've actually considered the question